Well, hello everybody, it's May the 26th. Today it's Sunday, it's the bank holiday weekend. I believe it's Memorial Day over in the United States. Certainly a weekend for remembrance if you're in the US, and for us here in the UK it's a bank holiday. You know, our Remembrance Day is in November. Anyway, here we are. It's another week gone by since the last update. So I'll just give you a little primer as to where I am. The Kefir, as you can probably see, has made basically zero progress since last week. About the only thing I've done to the Kefir in the last week is I've painted a couple of the Python 3 air-to-air missiles, and I've the bombs which I used in the just get that on there properly. The bombs that I used in the casting effect tutorial, I've painted more or less now. I've added some rust stains and things to the cast main bomb section, but basically that's all I've done with that this week. My modelling goes in fits and starts, and I get swept up in different projects from time to time, and other projects get put to one side. The Kefir's a bit of a victim of that at the moment, although it is, I'm still classing it as my ongoing project. The main reason it's been delayed, shall we say, is because of the T64, the Trumpeter T64, which I've kind of got swept up in completely, I'm afraid. Well, I'm afraid for the Kefir. I'm pretty happy about it. So here we are with the T64. I'll just run you over where we are at the moment. You can see the entire assembly's been completed now. I had already painted and used pigments and weathering on the running gear down here. That was all masked off prior to spraying the main camouflage, which I did yesterday. Okay, I can take the anti-aircraft gun off, so that's still a work in progress. So that needs the actual gun and stuff needs to be painted yet. So that's still ongoing, and also the turret is is not fixed, as you can see. So what I did was, in terms of the painting so far, it's received an overall coat of a primer. In this case, I used Humbrol's primer from a spray can. And then after that, I did do some pre-shading around lines, panels, and details and stuff. And for that, I used Tamiya's XF85. It's one of their newer colours. It's the rubber black. And at the same time, I sprayed areas such as the mudguards here, and the rubber parts of the gill armour were also sprayed at the same time and then masked off. Once that was done, we were ready for the main colour. Now, as you can see, that kind of says Russian green. That's a colour I've mixed. I looked around on the internet, I can't remember where I found a mix, but I decided to try it. And the base colour is XF58 olive green, and it's had various colours added to it. Like I say, I found it on the internet, but I can't remember what the actual mix was now. So it received an overall coat of that colour. I have to say, once it's on there and dry, it doesn't look all that different to XF67 NATO green to me. So possibly that in the future I'll have a look at using that rather than mixing a specific colour, because the difference is pretty negligible. But nevertheless, that's where we are. So it received an overall coat of that, and then I'd lightened added some white to it. I was quite happy to lighten and grey this out. I didn't necessarily want to keep it olive, and some other. It was given a kind of a misting pattern overall. and then I lightened it even further, so it was really quite pale. And if you can see around stuff where there's sharp edges and some of the edges and stuff, I've attempted and used a little bit of the modulation style that's currently in vogue. I have to say a lot of the modulation style looks far too exaggerated for my tastes. If we take a look at the vehicle on the front of this pack of AK Interactive 4BO Russian Green modulation set, I mean, that to me, I appreciate that that's not weathering yet, but as a starter that just looks way too exaggerated for me, so I like to dial it back an awful lot. So you can see that I've done it around these areas. The turret, on the turret sides, let's have a look if I can get that in camera. The turret sides around here and some of the larger components, I've had a little bit of modulation, but really not much. The underside, sorry, I'm not getting this in camera, am I? The underside has also received sort of the darker modulation in sort of heavy shadow areas, shall we say, and it's the same around the turret ring here. There's been some heavy sort of modulation, but that area is all going to be barely visible anyway, so I'm not too concerned with that. So that was a little bit of modulation that we did, and then once the modulation was on, what I did was I just I lightened it even more. In fact, I didn't. It wasn't any lighter, but it's just far more obvious when you put it on. And then using a fine brush, I just highlighted some of the detail on the vehicle. Okay, with this colour, which makes some of these very top details stand out quite a lot. Again, if you see it in some projects in magazines and online, it just looks too much to me. I don't like doing it, so I don't exaggerate it that much. But you can see, excuse me, the top of the sight housings here and some parts of the turret, and other parts have had a little bit of that highlight added on. So that's what we did with that, and once all that lot was dry, the model, I applied the decals. There's only 6 decals. There's a shield, a badge on each side of the turret, and a number on each side of the turret. That was, you can see I've added 64, which is an obvious number I suppose for a T64, and the badges, they were added with the Vallejo's Decal Medium and Decal Fix products, and then it was given about an hour to dry after that, and then the model received a generous overall coat of Gears EX03, which is their gloss clear. It's a good clear, it goes down over the acrylic really nicely, gives a really hard durable finish. And then once that was done, I've added the pin wash. The pin wash for me, I've tried all of the shall we call the aftermarket washes. Things like the AK products and stuff like that. These washes, they work, but I really don't find them as versatile and as controllable for me personally as good old-fashioned oil paints. So I've tended to revert these days back to standard oils. Excuse me just a second, I'm just looking for and in this instance the wash is a mix of raw umber and Payne's Greys, and the thinning medium I use is that's Winsor & Newton distilled turpentine, artist turpentine. It smells quite strongly. I don't find it an offensive smell, it's a very organic smell to me, but the thing is it breaks the paint down into it really nicely. It removes any tendency to clump, and it flows amazingly well. So as I say, the pin wash has been added and all over the model. And then the thing with the beauty with oil paints is once the thinner has evaporated off, you're left with a coating of oil, and you can manipulate the oil paint after the thinner's dried but the paint hasn't. Just using a brush, you don't need any thinner or anything to manipulate this colour around if there's any areas where it's spread too far or anything like that. So that was all done yesterday. It was a pretty intensive day's modelling for me yesterday. I went from sort of bare plastic at sort of just after midday to pin washed by 9 o'clock in the evening. So the thing with using acrylics and stuff like that and the lacquers, they're fast drying, you can make really quick progress, which is quite ironic, because for me the painting is the bit I love of a model. So I've spent over a week building this model, getting to the stage where I painted it, and it took me only an afternoon to get to the stage, you know, to fully painted and pin washed. So anyway, this morning we've got the model. The model was glossed, decals were added, it was pin washed, all that sort of stuff. So then it was a case of I've added a good heavy coat of Vallejo's acrylic. This is in the matte varnish. In fact, there's a little bit of gloss into it. Even if I'm doing what you would call a dead flat finish, I still like the model to catch the light a little bit. If you look at any large object, even the flattest of objects in real life do catch the light a little bit, and that's one of those things I like to try and represent in a model. So vanishingly rare that I will use a completely flat finish. This one is a tiny little bit sort of eggshell satin, just because I've added a little bit of gloss. And to me, it looks in scale. You know, it still catches the light, but is essentially matte. So that's exactly the finish I was looking for. So that's where we are this morning. That's been allowed to to dry. So the next stage is to start adding one or two little filters to that. I hope you saw the video earlier in the week that I did, where I've made the unditching log and painted it with oils and acrylics to give a wood grain effect. That unditching log will sit on these brackets in here with some etched straps to hold it in place. So I'm really quite happy with the way that's come out. And apart from that, there's just a couple of little spare track links in here, which I painted rust so far, so they've got to go on and be weathered in with the rest of the model. So that's where we are with the T64 at the moment, and I have to say I'm really pretty pleased with the way it's coming along. It's certainly yesterday was just for me, it was about as good as a day gets when I can actually start loading paint into the airbrush and trying to achieve a finish that I want. So for me, that was an ideal day. And this morning, after the coat of flat varnish, I'm suitably happy and looking forward to getting on with the model. You might notice on the model here, I've got the tank, the auxiliary fuel tank brackets on, but no tanks. I got bored of trying to clean the kit ones up. There's nothing wrong with them, but I've had a look online. I've managed to procure a set of resin 1 part 55 gallon oil drums, 200 litre oil drums as they would be, and I'm waiting for those to turn up, and that's just the lazy modeler. I'd rather pay a few quid to save me that bit of work. It means I can prime them and get on with painting them and go for a finish really quickly. So yeah, that's me being lazy, but there you go. One of the other things that did turn up this week is a barrel for this. I had intended to replace the barrel, but it took quite a while for it to show up. So ultimately that barrel is not going to be used on this project, so I've got a spare barrel for a T64 or a T72 at some point. You know, these things happen. I have to say, overall, a little bit of effort, the kit's barrel has cleaned up really nicely. So that is where we are with the T64. and hoping I can show you some more progress on that next week. Who knows, it might even be finished, but I make no promises. So what's been going on model wise this week? Well, this week I've only received one piece of armour. It's the Trumpeter T62. It's called the BDD by Trumpeter. I think it's actually a T62M, I think they call it. It's the one that's got the cheek armour, not the NRA but the cheek armour. So I bought this because I'd like to do one, try and represent some. These are the vehicles that were sent to Afghanistan when they didn't want to send T-72s or T-64s. They didn't think it was going to be that big a war, so they were happy to send T-62s. These have also shown up in places like Chechnya and places like that, so clearly the T-62 is still in pretty widespread service in Russia. There's actually been used for numerous incidents, shall we say, interventions, conflicts, whatever you want to call them, in recent years, so it's still an ongoing service vehicle. One of the things I did want to get for this was some working tracks. These T62s were upgraded in the 70s and 80s to receive T72 track, and Trumpeter do a set of workable track links. So I've ordered a set of them, and it comes in 2 bags of sprues here. They just click together, they do work. You've got both styles of sprocket actually in the kit, so I can use the T72 style sprocket for it. So that'll be a project that I hope to get onto fairly soon, having enjoyed the Russian green experience with the T64. One of the other things I received in the last couple of weeks from Chris at Inside the Armour was the Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore gun. This is in turned brass and turned brass and resin. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of work. I've bought it essentially because I want to replace the cannon or the gun barrel on the other, the superb new Revell Leopard. I'd like to do that Leopard as the Greek one. I think I'm going to do, but that would just be an extra little a little refinement I can add. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks when it's on the actual vehicle. A couple of decal sheets turned up this week. I ordered from Linden Hill. They've done 2 48 scale decal sheets for MiG-29s, one MiG-29 late 912s, 912 being the one that most people are familiar with, the shall we say the earlier standard spine aircraft. Some really interesting schemes on that, including the some of the frog schemes that some of the aircraft based in East Germany prior to reunification war. So the only issue is that it seems that the Great Wall Hobby MiG-29 has suddenly become very, very hard to obtain. And they have just released the 913 as well, the 913 being the original sort of MiG-29C, as NATO called it, the Fulcrum C, which had a humpback, had a deeper spine. Again, a whole variety of sort of Soviet and former Soviet schemes here. People like Turkmenistan, Moldova, Ukraine, Uzbekistan. So again, a wide variety of schemes to keep the modeller happy. So I just need to get a few more of the Great Wall Hobby MiG-29s now. So they're beautifully printed, very nicely done. It's only the basic decal, so there's no stencil detail, but the kit has extensive stencil detail, so you're going to be you're going to be fine with those. So as I say, there's 2 MiG-29 sheets. For some reason I've also had a little bit of spare money this week, and I've suddenly developed an interest in sort of 1950s and 1960s Israeli Air Force. So in line with that, the original Pratt & Whitney engine Super Mystere, which because I want to do that in the early blue and brown camouflage like you see on the box top there. Sorry, that's the Atar engined version. This is the Pratt & Whitney engine version with the extended rear. I like to do that in the Israeli 3 colour with the identification panels on the wings and tail. That'll be the plan for that. And also a Mystere 4, which is the original Mystere before it became the... This is not much different from a Dassault Oregon with swept wings really. It's quite a simple aeroplane. It was developed quite a bit further into the Super Mystere here. So I've ordered those. Whether they get built anytime soon or go on the stash, I don't know, but that's the way these things work. I do have an an AZ Super Mystere built and assembled waiting for paint. This is going to be the French one. However, at some point I've managed to mislay the tailplanes and the wheels, so until I find them, it's on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. But in fact, it's been on a hiatus for about a year and a half since I got to that stage, so it's just been sat around waiting. But nevertheless, as you can see, my projects do tend to go that way a little bit. Stuff ends up on hiatus, lying around waiting to be finished. That's just the way my modelling works, I'm afraid. Nevertheless, stuff does come off the end of the production line fairly regularly. So in terms of modelling, that's where we are this week. I also got this week, like I showed you earlier, the 4BO, the AK Interactive. Unfortunately, I was quite disappointed when it turned up to see that it had Vallejo or Valero on the box, so the colours are actually by Valero, so they're going to be no different to Model Air colours. I was kind of hoping that they would be the new style AK Interactive. The new style, you can tell they've got the new style will have the lid in orange. These were done by Valero for AK Interactive, so they're just going to be the standard Valero colours. Nothing inherently wrong with them other than they don't spray fine lines very well, but I was kind of looking for new AK style paint. I assume at some point they will be rebadging and reboxing this with their new formula paint, but quite a disappointment. But at some point I might have a look and see where we go, and see how they go. So anyway, guys, that's where we are this week. Hope you enjoyed the brief update. As I say, it's bank holiday weekend here, so I don't have to go to work tomorrow, and I won't be getting any modelling done this afternoon because I'm off up to Birmingham to see Rush this evening, which is as my favourite band. I'm very much looking forward to that. This will be, I think, the 10th time I've seen them over the years. So yeah, that's my evening sorted. So I'll be driving a couple hundred miles later on today to go and see my favourite band. So there's nothing else left to say really, but rock on. And I'll see you in a week or two's time with another update and hopefully the T64 done. So take care, happy modelling, and I'll see you soon.